Welcome to Hot Soup Stories. Pain came first. Not the sharp, clean pain she remembered from hospital shifts and surgical gloves, but a dull, heavy ache that pressed against her skull like wet cotton. Her throat burned. Her chest rose and fell with effort, as if each breath had to be negotiated. I'm alive. That was Dr. Lin Yue's first clear thought. The second was confusion. The ceiling above her was not the familiar white of an ICU room. There were no fluorescent lights, no beeping machines, no sterile smell of disinfectant. Instead, she saw dark wooden beams, spiderwebs clinging to corners, and a thin cloth canopy fluttering weakly in the wind. A cough escaped her lips, hoarse, weak. Immediately, voices erupted around her. She's awake. Heavens above, the dead girl lives. Hurry, call her aunt, no, call the stepmother. Footsteps rushed in. A woman with rough hands pressed against Lin Yue's forehead, eyes wide with disbelief. Fever's broken, the woman muttered. This child, she really survived. Child. Lin Yue tried to speak, but her tongue felt thick. Her mind, however, began racing. This isn't my hospital. This isn't my body. Memories, sharp and foreign, flooded her consciousness like a broken dam. A poor mountain village, mud houses, fields of medicinal herbs. A timid girl named Lin Yue, 16 years old, orphaned early, living under the roof of her stepmother and stepsister. Bullied, silenced, used. And finally, pushed into an icy river after an argument over stolen herbs. So that's how she died, Lin Yue realized. And how I arrived. The original Lin Yue had been innocent to the point of foolishness, obedient, gentle, trusting even those who despised her. The villagers remembered her as kind, quiet, and easily stepped on. But the soul now inhabiting her body. Dr. Lin Yue, 32 years old, emergency physician, survivor of night shifts, lawsuits, betrayal, and death itself, opened her eyes slowly. Innocent. No. Never again. That night, fever dreams tore through her. She saw operating tables overlapping with muddy village roads, surgical scalpels transformed into sickles, modern textbooks dissolved into handwritten herb manuals. And then, a voice. Sharp female, poisoned with resentment. Why is she still alive? She should have drowned. Lin Yue's eyes snapped open. The room was dark, everyone else slept, but the voice had been clear, too clear to be a dream. If she lives, she'll remember. If she remembers, I'm finished. Her heart pounded. Who said that? Another thought intruded, quieter, trembling. I didn't mean to push her that hard. Then anger flared again. But she deserved it, always pretending to be good, acting pitiful, taking everyone's sympathy. Lin Yue sucked in a breath. Those thoughts didn't belong to her. They belonged to someone else. Her stepsister. Lin Yue's lips curled into a slow, cold smile in the darkness. So I can hear inner voices, she thought calmly. Interesting. As a doctor, she trusted evidence, patterns, data. And this was a weapon. By morning, word spread through the village like wildfire. The miracle girl woke up. The river didn't take her. The Lin family's second girl survived. Villagers crowded outside the small house, some curious, some guilty, some afraid. Lin Yue sat up with effort, supported by a thin pillow. Her body was weak, but her mind was frighteningly clear. Her stepmother, Madame Zhao, pushed her way to the front, face stiff with forced concern. "Yue," she said, voice syrupy, "you scared us to death." Liar, Lin Yue thought coolly. Right on cue, another inner voice whispered, tight with calculation. If she talks about the river, I'll say she slipped. A sick girl's words mean nothing. That one belonged to Madame Zhao. So it wasn't just her stepsister. She could hear them all. Not words spoken aloud, but thoughts they never dared voice. Lin Yue lowered her lashes, playing the part expected of her. "Aunt," she whispered weakly, "my head hurts." Villagers sighed in relief. "She's still gentle," someone said. Same old Lin Yue. But inside, she was already reorganizing her future. 2 days later, a child was carried into the courtyard. Little Stone, 5 years old, the blacksmith's son, burned with fever, lips purple, breath shallow. "The village doctor can't help," the blacksmith pleaded. "Please, is Lin Yue good with herbs?" All eyes turned toward her. The old Lin Yue would have panicked. The new one assessed. High fever, likely infection, dehydration, maybe pneumonia. She had no antibiotics, no IV fluids. But she had knowledge. "Boil water," Lin Yue said calmly. "Clean cloths, I need willow bark, honeysuckle, and ephedra." The villagers stared. Even the stepsister's thoughts burst out in disbelief. "She doesn't even know herbs properly. She'll kill him." Lin Yue ignored it. She worked carefully, cooling the child, making herbal decoctions adjusted by dosage and symptoms. She used pressure points to help breathing. She monitored every breath like she was back in the ER. By dawn, the fever broke. Little Stone slept peacefully. The courtyard erupted. She saved him. She's a miracle doctor. She was chosen by heaven. Lin Yue washed her hands slowly, heart steady. She felt something shift. Respect, fear, and deep, gnawing panic from one particular direction. No, her stepsister's inner voice screamed. "If she becomes famous, she'll remember the river. She'll expose me." Lin Yue turned her head slightly and met her stepsister's eyes. She smiled. Soft, gentle, innocent, and utterly terrifying. The village miracle doctor had awakened. And she was no longer innocent. Here we go. Chapter 2, approximately 10,000 characters. No innocence, no mercy, and definitely no convenient misunderstandings. Fame arrived faster than trouble. By the 3rd day after Little Stone's fever broke, Lin Yue's courtyard stopped being a courtyard and turned into a waiting hall. People came with stomach pains, coughs, infected cuts, old injuries that had never healed right. They brought eggs, dried corn, even a skinny chicken that looked like it might sue for emotional damages. Lin Yue accepted none of it. "Save your food," she said. "Boiled water is enough." The villagers were stunned. In this village, kindness always came with a price. Even sympathy had interest. But Lin Yue treated them like patients, not opportunities. Her stepmother watched all this from the doorway, face stiff. "She's changing," Madame Zhao thought, her mind sharp and uneasy. Before, she wouldn't even raise her head. Lin Yue heard every word of it. She kept her eyes lowered, voice soft. Appearances mattered. Predators didn't panic when prey looked harmless. Her stepsister, Lin Kaio, stood beside their aunt, nails digging into her palms. Why does everyone look at her like that? Lin Kaio's thoughts churned bitterly. She's just lucky. If I hadn't pushed her. The thought cut off abruptly. Lin Yue glanced up. Lin Kaio's face went pale. They locked eyes. For a breath, Lin Kaio felt exposed, as if something invisible had brushed against her chest and peeled her open. She looked away first. Lin Yue smiled faintly. That afternoon, trouble arrived exactly on schedule. Old Chen, the village drunk, staggered into the courtyard clutching his stomach, face yellow, lips trembling. "Dr. Lin," someone called her for the first time. "Help him." Lin Yue knelt beside old Chen, fingers light on his wrist. Alcohol abuse, likely liver failure, ascites starting, her mind calculated. No cure here, only management. She sighed inwardly. "This one is difficult," she said honestly. "I can reduce pain and swelling, but he must stop drinking." Before the villagers could respond, Lin Kaio spoke up. "Oh, since when did my sister become so cautious?" she said sweetly. "You cured little Stone. Surely Uncle Chen isn't harder than a child." The inner voice screamed, say she's a fraud." Lin Yue stood slowly. Her gaze was calm, too calm. "Different illnesses require different treatment," she said. "If you don't understand, don't interfere." The villagers murmured. Lin Kaio flushed. How dare she talk back? She used to flinch when I raised my voice. Madame Zhao stepped in smoothly. "Yue Kaio is only worried," she said. "We are family, we should help everyone." Family. That word tasted rotten. Lin Yue nodded obediently. "Then Aunt should help too. Uncle Chen must be monitored overnight. Someone needs to stay awake in case he vomits blood." Madame Zhao stiffened. "Me stay awake for a drunk." The villagers looked at her expectantly. After all, family helps family. That night Uncle Chen survived. He didn't vomit blood. But Madame Zhao didn't sleep. And the resentment bloomed like mold. The next morning, whispers crept through the village. "Did you hear? Dr. Lin refused to help at first. She said old Chen couldn't be cured. Maybe her skills aren't that great." Lin Yue listened as she crushed herbs, expression unchanged. She didn't need to ask who started it. Lin Kaio's thoughts were loud with triumph. Good, let them doubt her, let them turn away. That was when a scream tore through the air. A woman ran down the path, hair loose, eyes wild. "My husband collapsed," she cried. "Blood, so much blood." Hematemesis. Lin Yue dropped everything and ran. Inside the mud house, a man lay convulsing, blood staining the floor. Villagers froze. Some stepped back. "Call the town doctor." "There's no time." Lin Yue was already kneeling, hands steady. She applied pressure, elevated his body, forced him to swallow a prepared decoction she always kept ready. She monitored pulse, breath, consciousness. Minutes dragged. Then, the bleeding slowed. The man's convulsions eased. Silence fell. Someone swallowed audibly. Lin Yue stood, sleeves stained red. "He needs rest and strict diet," she said. "If he drinks again, even gods won't save him." The villagers bowed. Some knelt. Behind them, Lin Kaio staggered back, face white. "Impossible. She said old Chen was hard to cure. Then she saves this one easily." Lin Yue turned and looked straight at her. And spoke gently. "Different illness," she repeated. The villagers' gazes shifted. Doubt changed direction. By evening, the rumors reversed. It was Lin Kaio who kept interrupting. She tried to force Dr. Lin's hand. She almost caused a death. Lin Kaio's chest tightened. Madame Zhao grabbed her arm. "Careful," she hissed, "say less." But Lin Kaio couldn't stop thinking. If this continues, she'll become untouchable. If she remembers the river. The thought echoed too loudly. Lin Yue heard it. And finally understood. Lin Kaio didn't know whether Lin Yue remembered. She lived in fear of a memory that might not exist. That fear was delicious. That night Lin Yue sat alone, writing notes on scraps of paper. Treatment methods, symptoms, outcomes. Evidence. Truth didn't need shouting, it only needed patience. Outside the window, two voices argued in the dark. "We should send her away," Madame Zhao thought. "Marry her off, sell her." Lin Kaio's thoughts trembled. What if she speaks before that? Lin Yue folded her papers neatly. She had no intention of speaking. Not yet. First, she would let the village see. Second, she would let them choose. And when blood ties finally snapped, no one would say they hadn't seen it coming. Lin Yue noticed it first in the silences. The way conversations stopped when her stepsister, Zhao Lan, entered the courtyard. The way elders exchanged glances when Madame Zhao spoke too eagerly about family unity. The way gratitude toward Lin Yue slowly hardened into something sharper, expectation. Expectation was dangerous, because once people expected miracles, they also demanded truth. The morning fog had not yet lifted when Lin Yue was called to the eastern fields. Old Farmer Su lay groaning on a bamboo mat, his right leg swollen, skin dark and stretched tight like overfilled leather. Snake, someone said nervously, bit him last night. The village doctor stood aside, pale and sweating. I applied herbs, but the swelling worsened. Lin Yue crouched down, eyes calm. Venomous bite, local necrosis, delayed treatment. Her modern medical instincts screamed urgency. Who tied the tourniquet? She asked. Silence. Zhao Lan stepped forward, chin lifted. I did, tight, just like father taught us. Lin Yue looked up slowly. At the same moment, Zhao Lan's inner voice screamed. If he loses the leg, it won't be my fault. Everyone ties it tight. Lin Yue inhaled. Outdated knowledge, dangerous confidence, the perfect example. Untie it, Lin Yue said. The village doctor hesitated, but now. Her tone brooked no argument. When the cloth was loosened, dark blood oozed out and Farmer Su cried out, but the swelling began to recede. Lin Yue cleaned the wound, applied herbal poultices mixed with activated charcoal, and instructed constant washing and monitoring. By evening, the fever lowered. The leg was saved. The villagers erupted again. But this time, the praise was different. It wasn't awe. It was comparison. That night, Madame Zhao slammed the door shut. You embarrassed your sister, she hissed at Zhao Lan. Zhao Lan's eyes burned. She did it on purpose. She wants everyone to see I'm wrong. She wants to strip me naked in front of them. Lin Yue, passing the corridor with a bowl of water, heard every word. She paused, then kept walking. Revenge was best served cold. And public. 2 days later, disaster struck. The village well, used by 3 families, caused sudden stomach pain, vomiting, and weakness. Children collapsed. Women clutched their bellies. Panic spread. The water is cursed. It must be Lin Yue. She angered the ancestors. Whispers turned sharp. Lin Yue arrived at the well, calm as ever. She tasted the water, just a drop. Bacterial contamination, likely fecal matter or spoiled runoff. She sealed the well immediately and boiled water for oral rehydration, using salt and sugar, measured by instinct and experience. People stabilized. No deaths. Relief swept the village. Then, an elder spoke. This well was clean last week. Who tampered with it? All eyes turned instinctively toward the Zhao household. Zhao Lan stiffened. Her thoughts exploded. I only poured a little spoiled herb water. I just wanted to scare her. How could it make so many sick? Lin Yue's gaze sharpened. There it was. Evidence, not yet spoken but undeniable. That evening, the village council convened. Lanterns flickered, faces were stern. Blood ties matter, Elder Q said slowly, but so does truth. Madame Zhao knelt dramatically. My daughter is foolish, not malicious. Zhao Lan shook her head violently. I didn't mean it, I didn't think. Her voice broke. And then, she realized. She had confessed. The courtyard fell silent. Lin Yue stepped forward at last. I don't want revenge, she said softly. I only want the village safe. Her inner voice was steel. And I want you to expose yourselves. The elders sighed. Punishment was decided. Zhao Lan would publicly apologize, work the fields to repay damages, and be barred from handling medicine. Madame Zhao's authority shattered overnight. That night Zhao Lan sat alone, staring at her hands. She heard me, she thought suddenly, cold fear creeping in. Somehow she always knows. Across the courtyard, Lin Yue ground herbs under moonlight. She felt no joy. Only clarity. Blood ties were not shields. And innocence. It was a luxury she had buried in the river. The first snow of winter fell quietly over Qingxi village. Thin flakes drifted down, settling on mud roofs and frozen fields like a deceptive blanket of purity. From afar, the village looked peaceful, untouched by malice or secrets. But inside Lin Yue's chest, a storm had long begun. By now, everyone in Qingxi village knew one truth. The miracle doctor was real. And another truth was slowly surfacing. She was dangerous to those with guilty hearts. Lin Yue had not left her small courtyard in 3 days. This was intentional. She brewed medicine, treated patients who came quietly at night, and allowed rumors to ferment unchecked. A healer who did not rush to claim credit felt more credible. A young woman who remained calm under praise felt more frightening. Villagers whispered, "She doesn't even ask for payment. She remembers every patient's condition." Did you hear? She corrected old Joe's bone-setting technique. He's been doing it wrong for 20 years. Praise drifted like snowflakes, but hatred gathered like ice. Inside the Lin household, Madame Zhao paced the Kang bed restlessly. Her fingers twisted her apron until the fabric wrinkled beyond repair. This is bad, very bad. Lin Yue's popularity had exceeded her worst expectations. The girl who once lowered her head and endured insults now sat at the center of the village's trust. And worse, she was no longer easily controlled. Madame Zhao's thoughts churned, sharp and frantic. If the villagers trust her more than family, blood ties won't save us. Across the room, Lin Xiu, her biological daughter, sat rigidly, nails digging into her palms. Why won't she just disappear? Lin Xiu's inner voice shrieked. Why does everyone look at her like she's a goddess? Lin Yue, sitting quietly nearby, stitched a medicine pouch as if oblivious. But she heard everything. Every ugly thought. Every desperate calculation. She lowered her gaze, hiding the faint curve of her lips. Good, she thought, fear makes people careless. That night the opportunity came. Old man Kyan, one of the village elders, collapsed after dinner, clutching his chest. Panic erupted. He's not breathing well. Fetch Lin Yue. Madame Zhao's heart leapt. This is it. She grabbed Lin Xiu's arm, dragging her aside. You'll go, she whispered urgently. You know herbs. If something goes wrong, blame Lin Yue. Lin Xiu froze. I don't know how to treat this. Then follow her method, Madame Zhao snapped, and add this. She pressed a small packet into Lin Xiu's hand. Lin Yue's ears caught the whispering instantly. The moment she sensed the packet, her eyes hardened. Crushed aconite she identified instantly. In the wrong dose, it's poison. Lin Yue stood up. I'll come too, she said gently. Madame Zhao's smile was strained. Of course, family should help family. But inside... Watch carefully, Madame Zhao thought. If the old man dies, the village will turn on her. Old man Kyan lay pale and gasping, surrounded by frantic villagers. Lin Yue knelt immediately, fingers pressing against his wrist, eyes sharp. Irregular pulse, cold sweat, chest pain radiating to the arm. Acute heart attack. Modern diagnosis, ancient world. She spoke clearly. No strong stimulants. Warm him, prepare ginger water, slowly. Lin Xiu, trembling, stepped forward. I'll help boil medicine. Her hand slipped, and the packet fell open. Lin Yue's gaze flicked over it for a fraction of a second. Enough. Stop, Lin Yue said calmly. The room froze. That herb, she continued softly, is deadly for heart conditions. Gasps echoed. Lin Xiu's face drained of color. I didn't know. But Lin Yue wasn't finished. She turned to the villagers. Someone deliberately prepared poison. Silence. Thick, suffocating. Madame Zhao's inner voice screamed. No, she can't prove it. Lin Yue lifted the packet. This is aconite. I recognize the smell. Who brought it? All eyes turned. Not to Lin Yue, but to Lin Xiu. The villagers murmured. She was holding it. Why would she bring poison? Lin Xiu collapsed to her knees. I was told to. She stopped abruptly, realizing her mistake. Madame Zhao's breath hitched. Lin Yue looked down at her stepsister. Her voice was still gentle. Who told you? Lin Xiu's lips trembled violently. She looked up at her mother. Blood or truth? For the first time, the village saw the struggle clearly on her face. I don't know, Lin Xiu sobbed finally. I panicked. Lin Yue nodded. Then step aside. She treated old man Kaian methodically. Warm compresses, controlled herbal infusion, acupressure to stabilize his breathing. Slowly, the old man's chest rose evenly. His pulse steadied. A collective breath was released. He's alive. She saved him again. But this time, celebration was muted. Because something else had been exposed. Later that night, the elders gathered. Lin Yue was called in. So was Madame Zhao. The old woman spoke first. Lin Yue has saved lives, twice now. Today she also prevented poisoning. Madame Zhao's knees weakened. This family matter. The elder raised a hand. No, this is a village matter. He looked at Lin Yue. Do you accuse anyone? Lin Yue bowed slightly. I accuse no one, she said calmly. I only ask that dangerous people be kept away from patients. That was all. But it was enough. The villagers understood. Blood ties could no longer shield wrongdoing. Trust had shifted. Quietly, irreversibly. That night, Lin Yue stood alone in the snow-covered courtyard. Her breath fogged the air. She felt no triumph. Only clarity. I won't seek revenge recklessly, she thought. I'll let truth rot them from the inside. Behind her, a voice trembled with fear. She knows everything. Lin Yue did not turn around. She whispered softly to herself. In this village, innocence is a luxury I can no longer afford. By the time autumn arrived, no one in King's village dared to call Lin Yue that quiet Lin girl anymore. She was now Dr. Lin. People queued outside her door before sunrise, farmers with aching joints, children with coughs that wouldn't leave, pregnant women seeking advice whispered from mouth to mouth. Even nearby villages had begun sending messengers. And with every cure, every life saved, something else spread just as fast. Fear, especially inside the Zhao household. Lin Ru had not slept well for days. Her dreams were filled with water, cold, dark, pulling her down while pale hands reached from below. She woke every night gasping, nails digging into her palms. She knows, a voice screamed inside her. She must know. Lin Ru stared at her reflection in the bronze mirror. Her face was pale, eyes rimmed red. The girl staring back looked nothing like the confident favorite daughter she used to be. She's just pretending, Lin Ru whispered aloud. She's always been stupid, she's acting. But her inner voice betrayed her immediately. Then why does she look at me like that? The turning point came on a market day. The village square was packed, traders shouting, chickens flapping, the smell of grain and sweat mixing under the sun. Lin Yue had come to buy dried herbs, basket hooked on her arm. She sensed it before she heard it. A sharp spike of malicious intent. If I say she used witchcraft, the elders will have to investigate. Lin Yue paused. The thought belonged to Lin Ru. Moments later, Lin Ru's voice rang out loudly, trembling with false righteousness. Everyone listen. The square quieted. My sister, Dr. Lin, she cures too fast, too well, haven't you noticed? No proper master, no lineage. What if she's using forbidden methods? A hush fell. Suspicion was a powerful thing. It only needed a seed. Whispers spread. Is that possible? Miracles are dangerous. Lin Yue turned slowly, her face calm. Inside, she cataloged reactions like clinical data. Fear, doubt, curiosity. And one more. Guilt. Lin Ru's thoughts were spiraling. Say more, push harder. If they fear her, they'll drive her out. Lin Yue smiled faintly. Witchcraft, she asked softly. Then let the elders investigate. The confidence in her tone unsettled everyone. The village head stepped forward. If there are doubts, we must be fair. That night the elders gathered. Lin Yue arrived alone. No tears, no protest. Just facts. She demonstrated how boiling water longer killed unseen contaminants. She explained how certain herbs reduced fever by cooling the blood. She showed careful notes, dosages, symptoms, outcomes, written neatly on bamboo slips. The elders exchanged glances. This wasn't sorcery. This was knowledge. Then Lin Yue spoke again. There is something else, she said quietly. The night I fell into the river, I did not slip. A collective inhale. Lin Ru's inner voice exploded. No, 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 no. She pushed me, Lin Yue said. My stepsister. Lin Ru screamed. She's lying. But Lin Yue turned her gaze toward her, not angry, not accusing. Just observant. I remember your hands, she continued, shaking, hesitating, then pushing anyway. Lin Ru collapsed to her knees. Tears poured down her face. I didn't mean to kill you, she sobbed. I was angry. I thought you'd grab the edge. Silence. Then outrage. The village head stood. Blood ties do not excuse murder. Madame Zhao tried to intervene, but her own thoughts betrayed her. Panic, calculation, fear of losing status. The elders saw through it. By dawn, judgment was passed. Lin Ru was expelled from the village. Madame Zhao was stripped of authority and forced to leave with her daughter. As they were escorted out, Lin Ru looked back. For the first time, her inner voice was quiet. Only one thought remained. I underestimated her. The village gathered around Lin Yue afterward. You did right, someone said. Truth matters more than family, said another. Lin Yue looked at the people she had healed, protected, and earned. She felt no triumph. Only closure. That night, she stood by the river again. The water flowed peacefully, reflecting moonlight. I'm done being innocent, she said softly. The wind carried her words away. Behind her, a new plaque was nailed to her door. Qinghe Village Medical Hall. Dr. Lin Yue. And from that night on, when people spoke her name, they did so with respect. Not because she was kind, but because she was just. By the time autumn crept into King's village, everyone understood one truth clearly. Lin Yue was no longer the girl who could be bullied. The mountain winds turned cold, and villagers began storing grain, drying herbs, and preparing for winter. But beneath the calm surface, something tense and heavy coiled through the village like a snake waiting to strike. It began with a sickness. Not sudden, not dramatic. Just wrong. Old Granny's son, who lived at the edge of the village, started complaining of dizziness and stomach pain. Then came vomiting. Then blood in the stool. The village doctor panicked. This isn't ordinary illness, he said, wiping sweat from his brow. It looks like poisoning, but who would poison an old woman? The word poison spread faster than disease. Granny Sun was known for one thing. She sold dried herbs in the market. And those herbs came from Lin Yue's family storage. Eyes turned, whispers rose. Madame Zhao cried first. "This is terrible," she wailed loudly in the courtyard. "Yue has always handled herbs. If something went wrong, if she mixed things improperly, how could an old woman survive it?" Her voice shook with grief and righteousness. But her inner voice screamed with excitement. "Perfect, even if she isn't punished, suspicion alone will destroy her." Lin Yue stood quietly nearby, expression pale but composed. Inside her mind, she listened. Madame Zhao's thoughts spilled freely, arrogant and careless. "The herbs were switched 2 days ago. No one saw me. Even if Lin Yue checks, she won't find proof." Lin Yue's fingers curled slightly. So that was it. Poisoned herbs framed blame. A classic move, crude, desperate, and stupid. Lin Yue knelt beside Granny Sun's bed that night. The old woman was barely conscious, breath shallow, lips gray. The village head hovered anxiously. "Can you save her?" Lin Yue checked the pulse, examined the tongue, smelled the vomit. Her eyes darkened. Aristolochia contamination, she concluded. Kidney damaging, slow onset. She turned to the villagers. "These herbs were tampered with," she said calmly. "This is not a mistake in preparation." The crowd stirred. Madame Zhao gasped. "Yue, are you saying someone poisoned her on purpose? How could you accuse your own family so lightly?" Her inner voice sneered. "She won't dare push further. Blood ties still bind her." Lin Yue raised her head. "Aunt," she said softly, "do you remember who entered the storage room 2 days ago?" Madame Zhao froze, just for a breath. "No one," she replied quickly. But her mind betrayed her. "I went in at night, only I know the key fits loosely." Lin Yue smiled faintly. She stood and addressed the village. "Granny Sun can still be saved," she said. "But first we must stop the poison from spreading." She turned to the blacksmith. "Search every household that bought herbs from us, especially those sold yesterday." Her authority was no longer questioned. As villagers rushed out, Lin Yue began treatment. Activated charcoal made from burned rice husks, fluid replacement with salted broth, and targeted herbal antagonists. Hours passed. By dawn, Granny Sun's breathing stabilized. The miracle doctor had done it again. But this time, the miracle was only the opening act. That afternoon, shouting erupted near the storage shed. They found it. A hidden pouch. Madame Zhao's legs went weak before she even heard the full words. A small cloth bag, containing crushed toxic herb, was pulled from beneath a loose floor plank. The village head's face darkened. "This poison doesn't grow near the river," he said slowly. "It was brought here." All eyes turned to Madame Zhao. She opened her mouth to cry innocence. But Lin Yue spoke first. "Aunt," she said gently, "before you speak, may I ask you something?" Madame Zhao's throat tightened. What?" "Why," Lin Yue asked, "did you visit the storage room at night?" The courtyard went silent. Madame Zhao screamed. "That's nonsense. Who said I went there?" Her inner voice shrieked. "How does she know?" The villagers stared. Lin Yue continued, calm as water. "Granny Sun's illness began slowly. That means the poison was mixed carefully, not dumped by mistake. Whoever did this knew herbs well." She turned her gaze to her stepsister, Lin Kaio. Lin Kaio's face drained of color. Her thoughts burst forth, frantic and sharp. "Mother told me not to say anything. If I speak, we're finished. If I stay silent, maybe they won't suspect me. Lin Yue stepped closer. Kaior, she said softly, do you want to speak? Tears spilled down Lin Kaior's face. She collapsed to her knees. I didn't mean for Granny's son to get hurt, she cried. Mother said it would only make Lin Yue look careless. I didn't know there was poison. The confession hit the courtyard like thunder. Madame Zhao screamed in rage and despair. You idiot! Too late. Blood ties shattered in that moment. The village elders convened before sunset. The verdict was swift. Madame Zhao was stripped of her authority in the household and banned from handling herbs. Lin Kaio was publicly reprimanded and forced to apologize to Granny's son. But Lin Yue wasn't finished. She stood before everyone and bowed. I do not wish to share a roof with those who would kill for jealousy, she said quietly. From today on, I sever all familial ties. The words were calm. Absolute. The village head nodded slowly. From today, he announced, Lin Yue stands alone, and King Village stands with truth, not blood. Cheers rose. Madame Zhao collapsed, screaming curses. Lin Kaio sobbed, her inner voice broken. I lost everything. Lin Yue turned away. She felt no triumph, only clarity. That night, she moved into a small abandoned clinic near the mountain path. As she lit the oil lamp, she finally allowed herself a breath. The village miracle doctor had won. But she knew this was only the beginning. Because beyond the village, there were bigger lies and louder inner voices waiting to be exposed. The first snow of the year fell quietly over Kinxi village. Thin white flakes settled on rooftops, fields, and the narrow paths between mud houses. Winter had arrived early, and with it came illness, hunger, and fear. Inside Lin Yue's courtyard, a line had already formed before dawn. Old women clutching their chests, children coughing until their faces turned red, men hiding frost-bitten fingers inside sleeves, pretending it didn't hurt. Lin Yue moved among them steadily, her breath fogging in the cold air. She wore a padded cotton jacket now, her hair tied simply behind her head. Her movements were calm, efficient, nothing like the timid girl she once had been. To the villagers, she had become something else entirely. Not just a miracle doctor. A pillar. Dr. Lin, an elderly man, said shakily, my wife hasn't eaten for 3 days. Sit her by the stove, Lin Yue replied. I'll see her next. Her voice carried authority, but not arrogance. Inside her mind, thoughts brushed against her consciousness like falling snow. She hasn't rested in days. How can such a young girl carry this much? If not for her, my grandson would already be dead. These thoughts, warm, grateful, came from the villagers. Then, like a shard of ice, why won't she just collapse? Why won't she die like she should have that day? Lin Yue's fingers paused for the briefest moment. Her stepsister, Lin Mei, stood near the edge of the courtyard, pretending to help boil water. Her face looked pale and obedient, but her inner voice was twisted with hatred and fear. The village listens to her now, Lin Mei thought. Even mother can't control them anymore. Lin Yue said nothing. She didn't need to, because she knew something Lin Mei didn't. The villagers were watching. The trouble began that evening. A loud cry shattered the quiet snow-filled night. Help, someone help! Lanterns flared to life as villagers rushed toward the sound. The cry came from the Zhao family house. Inside, Madame Zhao lay on the floor, clutching her chest, her breathing erratic, lips trembling. She suddenly collapsed, Lin Mei cried. She was fine just moments ago. All eyes turned to Lin Yue as she entered. The air felt wrong. Lin Yue knelt beside Madame Zhao, checking her pulse, her breathing, the color of her skin. Not a heart attack, she assessed quickly. Pulse is irregular but not weak. breathing shallow, panic-induced. Then she smelled it. A faint bitterness. Herb poisoning. Lin Yue's gaze flicked briefly to the corner of the room, where a kettle still steamed. Her stepsister's thoughts exploded in panic. No, she shouldn't notice. I only added a little, enough to scare her, not kill her. Lin Yue straightened slowly. This is not a natural illness, she said clearly. The room fell silent. Madame Zhao's inner voice screamed in terror. If the villagers find out. Lin Yue continued, calm but sharp. Someone added an excessive amount of aconite to the tea. If untreated, it can stop the heart. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Aconite. Poison. Lin Mei's knees went weak. I don't know anything, she cried aloud. But inside. Mother said this would make her look sick, just sick. Why did Lin Yue recognize it so fast? Lin Yue looked at her stepsister at last. Not with anger. With certainty. Lin Yue worked quickly, inducing vomiting, administering charcoal made from burned rice husks, stabilizing Madame Zhao's breathing. Within an hour, Madame Zhao's condition eased. She lived. But something else died that night. Trust. The village elder, Old Chen, stood slowly. We need answers, he said gravely. Poison does not appear on its own. Lin Mei burst into tears. I was only trying to help Mother brew warming tea. I didn't know the herb was dangerous. Her sobs sounded convincing. But thoughts betrayed her. If I cry enough, they'll pity me. Blood ties still matter, don't they? Lin Yue finally spoke. Aconite must be processed carefully before use, she said. Raw aconite is lethal. The amount used tonight was intentional. She turned to the villagers. 2 months ago, I warned this household not to store raw aconite near daily herbs. Old Chen frowned. That's true. Another villager added hesitantly. I remember Dr. Lin saying that. Murmurs grew. Lin Mei's face drained of color. Madame Zhao suddenly grabbed Lin Yue's sleeve weakly. Yue, she croaked, she's your sister. Her inner voice trembled. Protect Mei, even if it means sacrificing Yue. The room froze. Blood ties. The invisible chain that had bound Lin Yue for years. Slowly, Lin Yue withdrew her sleeve. Aunt, she said quietly, if I hadn't arrived in time tonight, you would be dead. Silence. I will not lie to protect someone who tried to harm you, she continued, whether she shares my blood or not. Her voice did not rise, but it cut deeper than any shout. Old Chen slammed his staff against the floor. In Qingxi village, he declared, we value life over blood. The words echoed like a verdict. Lin Mei collapsed to the ground. Her thoughts spiraled wildly. No, not like this. Villagers stepped back from her. Fear replaced sympathy. Lin Yue watched calmly. She felt no joy. Only release. That night, snow continued to fall. Inside her small room, Lin Yue sat alone, sipping warm water. Her body was tired. Her soul steady. The inner voices of the village murmured softly now, trust, relief, gratitude. But somewhere deeper, a new voice stirred. Cold. Patient. Watching. So this is the girl who hears thoughts. Lin Yue's fingers tightened slightly around her cup. She lifted her gaze to the dark window. Winter had only just begun, and the village's greatest trial was still to come. Winter arrived early in Qingxi village. Cold wind swept down from the mountains, carrying the smell of frost and damp soil. Smoke rose from chimneys, thin and crooked, as villagers wrapped themselves tighter and whispered about the same name again and again. Lin Yue. By now, no one dared call her that pitiful Lin girl anymore. She was Dr. Lin. The miracle doctor who cured fever without talismans, who treated broken bones without chanting, who spoke calmly even when death hovered close. And that was exactly why the Lin household had become unbearably tense. Inside the Lin family courtyard, Madame Zhao paced back and forth like a trapped animal. "It's gone too far," her inner voice hissed, "too far." Lin Yue sat at the small wooden table grinding herbs with slow, steady movements. Her face looked peaceful, almost indifferent, but she heard every vicious thought clearly. "The villagers listen to her now. They don't listen to me. Even the clan elders bow their heads to her words." Madame Zhao glanced at her stepdaughter, eyes dark. "You've been busy lately," she said aloud, forcing a smile. "Running around the village exhausting yourself. You should remember this is still the Lin family." Lin Yue didn't look up. "Yes," she replied softly, "family." The word landed like a stone. Madame Zhao's fingers twitched. Behind her, Lin Zhu, the stepsister, stood near the door, nails digging into her palms. "She's doing this on purpose. She wants everyone to hate us. She wants revenge." Lin Yue heard it all. She remembered the river, the cold, the sudden shove. She remembered the original Lin Yue's terror. And she remembered promising herself one thing: no mercy without truth. The break came sooner than expected. That afternoon, the village bell rang urgently. 3 sharp clangs. Emergency. Villagers rushed toward the ancestral hall, coats flapping, breath misting in the cold air. Lin Yue followed calmly, her medicine basket slung over her shoulder. Inside the hall, chaos reigned. Old Uncle Joe, the village accountant, lay on the floor clutching his chest, face gray, breathing shallow. "He collapsed suddenly," someone cried. "He was fine this morning." Lin Yue knelt instantly. Chest pain, radiating to left arm, cold sweat, she assessed rapidly, heart attack. She acted without hesitation. "Boil water. I need ginger, garlic, and hawthorn now." As villagers scrambled, another voice sliced through the hall. "Wait." Lin Zhu stepped forward. Her face was pale, eyes glistening with false concern. "Sister," she said softly, "are you sure? Uncle Joe is old. What if your strange methods make it worse?" Her inner voice screamed. "Stop her. If the elder dies under her hands, everything will collapse." The villagers hesitated. Lin Yue looked up slowly. "Do you have a better method?" she asked calmly. Lin Zhu froze. "No, but—" "Then don't delay treatment," Lin Yue cut in, voice sharp as frost. Something in her tone made people move. She administered emergency care with what little she had, warming the body, stimulating circulation, adjusting breathing. Minutes stretched. Then, Uncle Joe gasped. His chest relaxed, his breathing steadied. A collective exhale filled the hall. She saved him. Again. That should have been the end. But desperation makes people reckless. That night a rumor spread. Whispered at first, then louder. Dr. Lin uses forbidden methods. She learned demon medicine. Did you hear? Someone saw Madame Zhao burning talismans to protect the house. Lin Yue stood in her room, listening to the wind, and to the poisonous thoughts swirling through the village. Most of them traced back to one source. If they fear her, they'll turn on her. If they turn on her, she can't expose us. Lin Zhu. The next morning, the village elders summoned everyone. Public hearing. Truth would be spoken or buried. The ancestral hall filled to bursting. Old faces, young faces, curious faces. Lin Yue stood alone in the center. Madame Zhao clutched her sleeves, tears ready. Lin Zhu stood beside her, trembling delicately. The clan head cleared his throat. "There are accusations," he said, "that Lin Yue practices dangerous medicine, that her rise is unnatural." Murmurs rippled. Lin Yue bowed slightly. "Elder," she said, "may I speak?" He nodded. She turned not to the elders, but to the villagers. "3 months ago," she said calmly, "I was pushed into the river." Gasps erupted. Lin Zhu's inner voice exploded. She remembers everything. Madame Zhao's thoughts panicked. "No proof, there's no proof." Lin Yue continued. "I survived. Since then I've treated over 40 villagers, not one death, not one worsening." She paused. "But rumors say I use forbidden methods." Her gaze shifted directly to Lin Zhu. "Sister," she asked gently, "why don't you tell them what you were thinking that day at the river?" Silence fell like snow. Lin Zhu's face drained of color. I don't know what you mean." Lin Yue took a slow breath. Then she spoke the words Lin Zhu had never said aloud. "You thought if she dies, no one will compare me to her again. You thought she deserves it for being pitied. You thought just one push, no one will know." Lin Zhu screamed. "No, that's a lie." But the hall had already shifted. Madame Zhao staggered back. "How does she know? How does she know my thoughts too?" Lin Yue turned toward her stepmother. "You thought blood ties can be sacrificed. You thought as long as my daughter is safe, the other one doesn't matter." The elders stood up. "Enough," the clan head said heavily. "Lin Zhu, Madame Zhao, did you push her?" Lin Zhu collapsed to her knees. "I didn't mean to kill her," she sobbed. I just wanted her quiet." The truth spilled out like broken pottery. The decision was swift. Madame Zhao and Lin Zhu were expelled from the Lin household. No inheritance, no protection. Blood ties were severed, not by Lin Yue's hand but by the village's choice. As they were led away, Lin Zhu looked back one last time. Fear, regret, hatred. Lin Yue met her gaze. No triumph. Only calm. That night snow fell quietly. Lin Yue stood outside her small clinic, watching white flakes gather on her sleeves. She had won. But she knew. This was not the end. Her name would spread beyond the village. And with it new dangers. New enemies. New truths waiting to be uncovered. The miracle doctor turned back inside, closing the door against the cold. The past was buried. The future had begun.
Thanks for tuning in to Hot Soup Stories. If you love audio stories, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your encouragement keeps our stories coming.